Hello, hello, and welcome. It's Mark here, and welcome to another episode of Building Experiences. If you haven't met me before, of course, I'm Mark Schultz, but worked with Adobe for over 16 years. And what I want to do with this show is share some great experiences with you, tips and tricks on what people are doing with our fantastic technology. Now, the intent of the show really is to just get into some detail and talk about various topics. And today you're going to see we're going to focus on building experiences, experience design. You'll see a bit about Adobe XD, working with Experience Manager, and some tips and tricks along the way. And of course, towards the end of the show, we'll have some community activities and some links for you to look at. Now, this is a live stream, so feel free to interact and comment. I believe the comments are just over there, and you can go and add some comments. We can see them in real time, and happy to respond and make it a show for you. But we are still trialing this new format, so always keen to get feedback from you on how it's working and make this show work over time. But let's get straight into the content, and it's always best if I have someone join me. And today, got a rock star, an Australian legend. Let's welcome my good mate, Jamie Ragen.
G'day, Mark. How you going, mate?
Good, mate. You?
You're very good, very good. Lockdown in ISO.
Yep. Another. What are we up to? Week 10?
I don't know. I feel like I've been sitting at this desk for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jamie, for the people who don't know you, do you want to give a bit of background, what you do at Adobe?
Yeah, so I manage a solution consulting team in digital media. So it's all of the programs around design and Acrobat. So all of those and a team of experts in and around those areas.
Awesome. And you must get out and see a lot of good customers and get to work with their teams, right?
Oh, man, I love it. We spend a lot of time with designers. In fact, we spend almost all day, every day working with designers in large and small, big enterprise customers, all the way down to individuals and individual teams. And we're helping them use our software and improve their workflows every single day.
Fantastic. Sounds like a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I get to meet a lot of really cool people. I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah, and I think like you, like me, we're always on a plane flying around the country and around the world. It's kind of interesting being at home right now, but the conversations are still going. I mean, we're both talking to customers all the time, right?
Mate, I think we're busier than we've ever been. We have customers that had to move entire workforces of 500 and 600 people home within a day and stay productive. They're using our software. They're using other means of communication and collaboration as well. But I think we're busier than ever because people are actually using software, and all of the software and all of the collaboration features are like they've never used before.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. And I think something that we've both talked about quite a bit is, the importance of experience now that I don't have necessarily that face-to-face interaction. And so brands are being judged on the digital experiences they put together. And it gets us always into that healthy, discussion around the developer side versus the design side and which one takes priority. And, I think we both agree that they're both equally important. But one of the challenges, of course, is that handoff and how the different teams work together. What's your perspective on, what good teams look like?
Yeah, so it's a really good point. It's an age-old discussion. From a design perspective, I suppose it's never been more important than right now that when a customer lands on a site or in an app or some sort of digital experience, that they feel comfortable and welcome, and it's showing off whatever it is that you're looking to show to your customer. And designers have got a really keen eye for that. But at the same time, what we're finding is that designers are really having to have a special thought process around what can be very quickly pushed out to the customer base. So no huge changes at the moment Most of our agencies and design teams, when they're working with the developers, are working in very small incremental changes, not big wholesale chunky changes.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's fair to say that design isn't just about making things look pretty. It's really thinking about that experience and the functional aspect of it as well, right?
Yeah, so I had a really interesting long discussion with one of our enterprise customers last week about what the weight and the gravity of a slider should be, how much weight that should have,
Yeah,
and should it be harder to push as it gets further along. And these guys and girls are really agonizing over these small details
yep.
and those really fine interactions.
Yeah, and it's the type of thing that you don't consciously know, right? But you know when it's good, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. When it disappears and it just becomes a really seamless experience, that's when the designers have really done their job.
Yeah, so I mean that's the focus for today, right? Is how do we get the design and that element of it, flowing right through the whole process. So you're going to stick around, you're going to show us some things, but how about we get straight into the feature of the day?
Sure.
All right, so what we try and do with these features is just pick a topic and just go hard on it and think about, what are the different parts of it that we need to focus on. Jamie, bringing you back into the picture here, you are very close to Adobe XD. I'm working with Adobe Experience Manager all the time, and we just seem to be working closer and closer together lately as the two are coming together.
Yeah, absolutely. We're the design side of the business and Adobe Experience Manager are really starting to get closer. And you know what? The reason we're doing that is because our customers are asking us so,
Yeah.
and how they can make this more seamless. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, so we might go straight into a bit of a show and tell, and let's hop over to my laptop here. If I press the right buttons, there we go. This is a typical site, and I think one of the trends we're seeing here really is around style systems, design systems, and the way we componentize different experiences. The for the Adobe Experience Manager people out there, you'd be very aware of what the team have been talking about around component libraries and making them easy so you can get into that low code, no code environment where you're not rebuilding common elements on a particular site. But if we get down into within AM, and this is actually the editing experience of Experience Manager, if you haven't seen it before, but starting to look at this component and say, okay, well that's a teaser, but normally I may have different variations of them, and starting to bring in the notion of applying styles to components that we can actually look at. So seeing this same component as a hero versus a featured object, and the code and the content stays the same, the way we present it looks differently. So the good news is there's been a lot of work around bringing the earlier upstream parts of how we get to this place streamlined. And so Jamie, I want you to feed into this here, but
Yeah.
these XD resources that are online here, not just for Experience Manager, which I'll get to in just a moment, but various design kits for different platforms.
Yeah, so I can't stress that this is for anyone that's embarking on a design system, or they're looking at updating their design system or working with developers. This is really should be your first stop. It's a way to actually kickstart and fast track into that design process. It's because you're actually starting at the end. You're starting with those core components, and most designers like to know what their constraints are before they get going, and not to be blindsided at the end by, look, we've got these core components. I want you to work with those. If you know what those are when you first start, you can and you can work within those, it certainly makes the end process a lot faster and a lot smoother. And if you just scroll up a little bit there, Mark, if you would mind. Yeah, you'll see in here there's a lot of interesting kits in there, including our demo asset for today. If anyone wants to download it and have a bit of a go, but also full design systems, hand-drawn wireframe sets. There's kits in there for updating and doing prototyping as well. So, Amazon Alexa, there's actually full workflows in here that you can just literally copy and paste into your own areas around voice and voice prototyping.
Yeah, and I think some of like the Alexa examples are really cool, right? The ability to, without building anything, you can actually get to the point where you can deploy a design onto a device and even test some of the voice interactions.
Yeah, there's a plugin. I'm happy to show you a bit later on if you like, for XD that just works seamlessly with your Amazon Alexa. I've built out many prototypes that I literally just push to my Alexa here at home and test in my home environment, and it works with the voice interaction.
Yeah, great. So let's have a look at the core component kit for XD, and I'm going to hop over to a pre-release. And the reason I'm using a pre-release is something later that I'm going to share with you, but this is technology you can use right now with the shipping version of both XD and Experience Manager.
And just saying that, Mark, while you're on the pre-release, anyone can sign up for the pre-release. It's a public pre-release, and you're basically getting the version before the next release is available. So we just ask that you comment and be part of the community. That's all.
Yeah, it's good. It just helps us make a better product for everyone, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So the reason I'm bringing this up is that these components in this kit should look familiar. Like there's a breadcrumb, there's a title, there is a text, an image, and if I scroll down a little bit more, we get into things like teasers. So the component library that we have within AEM, the idea is we have the same components within XD and allows me to start styling them and actually building up a whole site. And, Jamie, you'll give me a couple of pointers on how to get started with XD if I, haven't tried this. And you're going to share some tips and tricks later on.
Yep.
But, being able to start saying, okay, heading 3, where is that used? And highlight that. And I can see that it's actually being picked up not just by the definition here, but, all the way down into the teasers, etc. So I can go in and make a change to that. And, let's go and do something really kind of ugly. We have Comic Sans on my MacBook. That's a surprise, but there we go.
I apologize in advance to all my design customers. Comic Sans still is a font. I'm sorry.
There is a time and a place for it. That just time and place is very small. But, if I fast forward into, more of a full-blown experience that someone's built out, the idea is that I'm now using those components and then I can mock up the various pages ready for handing off to someone who's actually going to code them. And so the idea is that I'm really pushing the awareness of the language upstream. So we're talking the same thing where we're sharing the verbiage around, I've got a component in AEM, I have a component in XD, they're both called the teaser, we're referring to the same thing. So when I need a new style of the teaser, everyone knows what we're talking about. And I think that's one of the good things about Adobe is like healthy debates internally around what should we call these things and how does it make sense. So there is that workflow there.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, very intentionally, the word component, and we used to call them stickers, or they were actually called something different. Now we very intentionally changed the verbiage over to components so that it matches with that industry standard.
Yeah. So, again, if I go and grab the heading here and I say, highlight it, where am I? I'm not in the right area, am I? I should be in here. Highlight, I can now see, across my design, etc. That's a heading 3. That's where it's being used. So when I get into, prototyping where I'm starting to stitch the journey together, And finally, when I get to sharing this out and making these assets available, I've got one source of truth to actually go and share that right across the experience. And if I preview this, and Jamie, it'd be good for you to just comment on, how this tool's evolving. But, that handoff where I'm saying, here's my design, and I can actually see immediately here for each component, each item, what the font is, the markup if I select
Yeah.
something. Let's just zoom in there.
So if you select one of those elements, Mark, you'll see
Yep.
that it gives you the actual position, the red line on the layout. It tells you how far away it is from other elements on the layout as well. Also, if you've marked that image or the whatever the thing is on the screen, if you've marked that for export, it will actually be available for export. So if you select that image there, the picture of
Yep.
the gorge, you'll see there that image has been marked for download, and you can go and choose whether you want it to be a PNG or a JPEG, or you can download from SVG as well. So, and also it gives you a bit of a starting point around your CSS as well.
Yeah, and I think that this is meant to be like intentionally, you know, giving you the values is the key thing, not necessarily the markup,
Yes.
right?
Yes, we're not telling people how to write code. It's okay. Look, this is meant to be a starting point. Yes, you can copy and paste it, but we fully expect that people are writing their own code and doing their own, writing their own code. So
Yeah, good. So I think it's worth pointing out as well here that the innovations are not stopping. So the collaboration to get the language between XD, we now have the UI kit, so we can start to wireframe, and that's been available since January, and now as of this week, there's a new enhancement that I think is kind of cool. It's actually going to add a lot of value when I'm quickly trying to prototype, and that is around getting access to my images, all the wonderful imagery that I might have in my
yeah,
asset repository right here in XD. So if I go into Experience Manager for a moment, and I'm just kind of browsing around and looking at different folders of assets, this is where all my brands, my images that have been approved, my photography, etc., is all sitting there. And rather than going and exporting this down to the desktop and then placing it and then remembering to reference that if I give to someone else, we can actually now integrate Adobe XD straight into AEM Assets with a new plugin that's available. So let's see what that looks like. If I go into plugins, I can actually bring up my view here immediately, and I can give it a few different views. But if I just go and grab this image here, drag and drop it, let go, that's the experience. It's pretty simple, right? It's just find the image, place it on the page, and I can of course browse through the hierarchies here if I want to go into a particular folder. Let's go into, say, camping.
yeah. I think also search is really important here too, Mark. Quite often the designers might not have access to AEM, or they just want to be able to search for something inside of the tool they're in. So they don't
Yep.
have to go back out, go to a web interface, log in. They can just go in here and search directly in here for any of the assets they're looking for, images or whatever it happens to be, and have direct access to it.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And I think there's one more aspect of that if we think about workflow, where someone else might be selecting the imagery first as
Correct?
a first step, and then handing it over. And rather than handing over a list of 10 images and saying, okay, find this one, find that one,
Yep.
find that one, in Experience Manager, we've got something called a collection. So I can just go and grab an image, add it to a collection here, and actually press the button. And here is my collection I've created for this app, and click on add, and that's now been added to that collection, which is a whole bunch of imagery that's right
Yeah.
across my repository here. But if I go back into my assets, if I go into collections, if I go into that same collection view here, I should now see the existing images plus that new one. So there it is there. I can go and drag and drop that. So now we can have, marketers or other people working in Experience Manager, finding imagery, putting it together, sharing it out. And then without even leaving XD, I can go and find that images and drag them straight onto the page.
Yeah, really important to connect that with the developer at the end process is that part of the design process has always been finding the assets, right? Whether you're looking for stock images or images that you've shot, or you might have a wire service heading being ingested through AEM and auto tagged. But really what then you want to be able to do is refine that down, or someone else might do it. It might be an agency or a librarian, refine that down, a marketing person. Then you might have an either or option based on the layout or whether you're up to with that layout. You would choose one or two of those. That image then makes its way. If you see down on the right-hand side there, there's a checkbox there. It says mark for export. Now, if I'm mucking around and I'm trying different images, I might deselect that, right? So it doesn't get through to the developer. But you've already shared that link with the developer. Now, if you go to the share icon and then you update that, if you just update that in the top right-hand corner there, update link, now that's been pushed out to the developer, they know there's something changed, and they can have that exact asset put into the exact same spot where the designer is, they might have agonized over its position and its cropping, and now the developer gets that exact asset in the right spot. So really the idea here is that the design intent is pushed through to the developer.
Yeah, it's great. It's good. So within the last 6 months, lots of innovation. Where do you think it's going next?
Well, I think there's more around that design intent. I feel like the design layer is going to be something that designers work on and are able to really easily communicate through the development process. Really working on that, the ability for designers to be able to experiment and go through that experimentation phase and that ideation phase. But I feel like in the prototype area around, different states and how those micro interactions and how that actually gets translated through to the development process, I feel like that's the next thing we need to conquer. I mean, we do have this available at the moment for the developer to be able to go in and test and look at what that process is, but actually handing that off in a meaningful way, I feel like that's the next thing to go and get a hold of.
Yeah, good. Well, look, thanks for that. And I think, while we've got you here, let's have a look at some tips and tricks for XD. So, Jamie, you are the expert on Adobe XD. I've seen you do some amazing demos to thousands of people. I'm going to put your screen on and share it with everyone so you can show us some cool things.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Look, I'm just going to do a quick walk around XD. The idea of XD is that it's been completely redesigned, from the ground up. The XD team started as a very small team at Adobe about 4 or 5 years ago, and has now expanded into one of the biggest development teams that we have. We see this as such an important process in the design area. It actually looks and feels completely different to other Adobe software. With this, we've completely gotten rid of a lot of the panels, and the panels are fixed so that you've got a really large design surface to work in. Over here on the left-hand side, I'm in design. I'll just head over to design now. I've got design, prototype, and share. It's pretty simple, right? Design at the speed of thought, prototype and test what your interactions are, and then share that with a number of people. Excuse me. Over on the left-hand side, very simple toolkit, pen tool, shapes, an artboard tool for you to be able to go in and select artboards with standards already put in there, and they're constantly updated, obviously, as new products and new screen sizes become available. And then down here on the left-hand side, I really want to point this out. This is where your assets and the stuff you were talking about before, Mark, around your asset library. This is the assets internally here, but also my components. Now, the cool thing about components, and I want everyone to understand this, you'll see that up the top here I've saved this as a cloud document. Now, the importance of cloud documents in Creative Cloud now is that you can share these documents with anyone in your team. But what you can also do in Adobe XD is you can live co-edit. Now, you can see here, Mark has invited me to this document, actually. This is his document. He invited this with me. I've got him working on this. I'm going to zoom in over here, and Mark, might get you to have a bit of a play with some of these favicons here.
Yeah.
You can see that his color, now if I had 10 people on this, so they would have all different colors, and they could all be working on this same artboard, same document at the same time. Now, if I go ahead and select, this this next one on Mark's screen, he would be able to see that I'm working on it. If you go ahead and you can see that now he's red down here, and if I mouse over it, you can see that it tells me who's working on it. So if we were in the same office, I'd go, "Hey, Mark, what are you doing?" I'm working on this, and we're actually working on collaboration features around this at the moment, so you'll be able to do more collaboration in this area.
Very useful now, right, at the moment where you can't just look over someone's shoulder and be the art director, and nudge people and go, move it to the left, move it to the left. It's now...
Mate, it's huge. Our customers are really putting this through its paces. At the moment, this is still in beta, but it's about to be released out of beta. This little beta in the brackets down here is going to disappear quite soon. Being able to share it with people is important, and giving them edit or share access as well. So that's sort of live co-editing, and I encourage everyone to have a play with this. Please give us feedback around this feature as well, and also things. If you want to give us feedback, up here in the help menu, you'll see that there's provide feedback. Please go ahead and give us feedback in there. The other thing is, for the XD team, very open to feedback. There's a gentleman who's his name is Andrew Shorten. He's the head of our product management team for XD. Go ahead and follow him. He's leaking stuff all the time about new cool stuff coming around XD, and loves direct feedback and requests from people out there that are working in the design area. I will just go ahead and just come down here just for a second, if you don't mind, Mark, and just give you a quick idea about some of these some plugins. You can see here that I've got a plugins menu. I'm just going to flick over to my standard XD here. I've got lots of plugins over here on the left-hand side, as you can see. One of those, Alexa, the one that I was talking to you about before. There is another one I wanted to show you quickly. We've had a lot of people, government agencies, using XD at the moment. Large enterprise organizations talking about color blindness. Now, some of these plugins are incredible. If I come in here and just select my colorblind simulation, and I go ahead and select darkest theme, right? So this is the one you can see down the bottom here. Yep. This is what it looks like. I'm going to come in here and just show you the importance of being able to do this on the fly using your plugins.
Wow.
And we've got hundreds of plugins. Now, you can imagine if I was in there actually designing something and I wanted to have a color difference between the two, and I was expecting people to know the difference between those two colors, and I didn't take this into consideration, that could be something that makes a success or a failure for 20% of the population that have color blindness issues. So plugins are important. The other plugin, the other thing I wanted to just point out here while we're inside of XD is just the importance of components and how components actually work. So I'm going to come over here and let's select this component that we were looking at before. Now, we know it's a component because it's got this green outline and this little diamond up here. If I right-click on this and go Edit Master Component, it'll ship me to this component over here on the left-hand side. This is like the master area where I can go and make changes to it. Now, if I come in and make changes to this area, and I move this around, it will move it around for all of the instances of that throughout the layout. But what's important about this is that if this component or this component was shared with other people, it would cascade to all documents that this has been used on. So certainly worth having a look at components. If you want to do more components, there's a website called Let's XD. We'll put that in the show notes for you to get in there and have a bit of a look at as well. One more thing I wanted to show you while I'm in design mode, Mark, if you don't mind, is we were talking about, so there's micro interactions before, and I want to talk to you about states. So part of components is that you can actually create states. Now, the obvious states here might be something like this magazine button up here, and I want to be able to make a hover state with that. So if I come up here and change that to a hover state, it will be yellow, right? So I can come in and change those states. But what about if I actually wanted this to change to a different look and feel? Previously, what you would have had to do was create a new artboard, change the different size of the prototype, actually do a link in prototype mode, and sort of mimic that. It's a bit hard when you're handing off to a developer. But what about if I actually wanted to change my hover state to something completely different, like a read more, or one of those core components, like changing that to a bigger component? And all I really want to do is just tell the developer I want to go from this core component here to the next size up on hover. Those types of interactions. And let's just go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and prototype that. I have to go back to my default state. Sorry, give me a second. Okay. So here's my article, and as I hover over it, it comes up and changes it to the read more. Like, these types of interactions should be simple. It's so easy now with states to be able to do that, and you can have as many states as you like. You can infinitely add to those states if you're working on those. One last thing I wanted to show you here is in and around the prototype area and how easy it is to wire up these prototypes. You can see here that I have my design. I've got my magazine that we were just looking at before, and I want to link this to this page. It's already got a hover state over the top of it, so it's actually seen as, and I can view that. I'm in prototype mode, and what that would look like. Oh, let me select it. I haven't actually selected it. I've selected it now, and go into hover state, and I know what that looks like, and I can change that micro interaction to auto animate. So as it goes through, let's change that to something obscene like 2 seconds, right? Of course, you wouldn't want it to be 2 seconds. I'm just doing that for demo purposes, and I'll come in and select it. So it takes quite a bit of time. Now, if I come back in here and just drag this over, I've literally now just done a click state. Trigger is tap. I can do gamepad, I can do voice, I can do drag, but on tap, I just want it to auto animate, or I want it to overlay, scroll, a speech playback. I'll just do transition, and away it goes, 2 seconds. So I can actually change these interactions very, very simply when I'm in prototype. So one more thing in Share, a little tip for everyone when you're creating your experiences is, you see this little blue blob up here. This you can select. When you select your artboard, it comes up as gray. And if I select that little blue blob there, that tells me where that experience is going to start when I create a new shared experience. So I can come in here and share for developer. Mark's already done one, and update that. But this is where that experience is going to start over here.
I must say it's a gotcha that got me a few times.
Yeah. So that little home thing. And remember, you can have different links. You might have a link for your iPhone app that's going off to one developer. Then you might have a link for your Android application that goes off to a different developer. Like, you can have these links for each of these experiences. Just regenerate it, save the link, and share it. Those links are looked after inside of your Creative Cloud application, by the way. If you wanted to update or delete those links, they're fully updatable inside of Creative Cloud.
Yeah. Nice work, and I'm sure we could get you for the next 3-4 hours, and you'd have plenty more to show us, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So it's good, but let's focus on news from the community. The idea is that there's always really cool stuff happening, both from Adobe and also the community, our partners, our customers. And the idea is we want to bring that in. So, Jamie, you gave me a couple of links. We were just going through and looking at those. So let's go straight in and talk through some of these. One, I think, is directly related to what we've been talking through, and that's Spectrum. Can you talk about what Spectrum is?
Okay, so Spectrum is um, it's Adobe's design system. It's available for everyone to go and have a look at. Obviously, our design system isn't just for our website. It's for all of our products, all of those pull-down menus and where things sit inside of a button, or it's Adobe's design system on a page, basically.
Yeah, the intent of it, right, is to kind of share what we do internally with the community and say, okay,
Yep.
here are the considerations, the patterns, etc., within them. So, there are lots of design systems out there, but I think it's worth checking this out and getting some ideas from it. There is also a React version of this. So, for any app developers out there, there is a React Spectrum library where you can actually use the same look and feel of some of the Adobe applications if you are extending or building utility apps for the Experience Cloud, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Let's go to number 2, and I thought this is pretty cool. This is an announcement for the finalists of the Experience Maker Awards, and I'm not going to read this in detail, but I'll put the show notes in. But there are many Australian entries, which I think is pretty cool. This is a worldwide
I saw that this morning, actually.
Activity.
Very
But it's now down to everyone to vote on who is the winner. So anyone who's watching this in the Asia Pacific region, let's go hard and vote for our finalists, because I think it's really proud, and I'll make mention of that as we come back to highlight the winners there. But good to see some awesome brands. You should feel proud. A couple of code-related releases that I want to bring to everyone's attention. The first one is for anyone looking at moving from AEM managed service into cloud service. The dispatcher rules are slightly different, and Adobe's just released a tool to allow you to migrate those configurations quite easily. So again, I'll put the link in the show notes. You can have a look at that. Then we get into CIF, or the Commerce Integration Framework. So this is how Adobe ties Magento with Experience Manager and does all the plumbing for you. And we do this in an open way. That's why it's on GitHub. So feel free to contribute if you're interested. But there was a new release last night, takes advantage of some of the updates to Magento, and again makes it easier to bring products into your experience. One thing that's pretty cool, though, is all the components that you drag onto a page, so a product list, a category, etc., are now core component friendly. So the core components that we've already seen, the same ones are now extended. That list is extended. And Jamie, hopefully we see this show up in the XD UI kit soon as well.
Yeah, I think it's being pretty well updated, as close to release as possible at the moment.
Yeah, great. And the last one I have here is, again, pretty exciting, went live last night, is Project Firefly. And what Firefly is a way, it's kind of the next phase of Adobe I/O. And if I/O is completely new to you, it started with a common gateway of APIs for all the Adobe products, whether it's the digital experience products, with Experience Manager and Campaign and Target, etc., or looking at some of the our desktop tools and some of the services. It's having one place to go for all of those APIs. But then building on top of that, we have something called Runtime. Allows you to build microservices that interact with these APIs in real time. The Project Firefly, the next layer is actually to be able to build and deploy an application that calls on these services and deploy it within the Adobe infrastructure. So we're really seeing this as a new way of expanding and being able to extend the different capabilities of Adobe products. So we use it ourselves for some functions, but we're also making it extensible so you can build your own. And we're going to be doing a whole show on that in the near future. We're going to get some of the product managers to come in and show what that looks like. But you can sign up for a preview and get started, straight away. And there's loads of documentation to get you excited by that. So with that, it's almost time for the end of the show. It's a little sad. I think I just lost my camera for some reason. Let's go to the backup camera. There we go. Just it. See, the show's ending. Everything's falling apart. But that's fine. We're living on the edge. So look, Jamie, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for giving us some time, sharing some great tips and tricks. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I appreciate being on. If anyone's got any follow-up questions, happy to jump on a call with anyone or be part of any of your planning processes. We really want to hear from customers that are going through this and that are feeling pain around this. Quite often, most of our innovations come from when customers are feeling a bit of pain. We like to be able to develop our solutions and products around trying to fix that. So,
yeah, and do you think we can get you back on the show sometime?
Of course. Anytime, mate.
That would be great. So again, thank you everyone for watching as well. And this is where I get to be a typical YouTube host and say, hit the subscribe button below, and that way you'll get notified if there's updates. Of course, I'm posting to LinkedIn and Twitter, and the recordings go to my blog, which I'll put the URL up in a moment, where you'll see all the links to all the different sites that we've mentioned, and we'll get that update out to everyone, later today. So as always, share the recording with friends. Thanks everyone for watching. Feedback is always, very valued. And until next time, we'll see you in a week or so. That's it for today. Thanks everyone.
Bye.
This is when you get the nice soundtrack. Here we go.